Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us with this SnagIT EDU webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today Tiffany Wood. Tiffany is the product manager for SnagIT, and thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A portion of the webinar to ask those, and we'll be responding as Tiffany takes you through SnagIT 11 and goes through and shows you some of the features. So thank you for tuning in today.
Thanks, Foster. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you today. I look forward to walking through some examples of how SnagIT is being used in education today and in SnagIT 11. So as Walter said, please ask questions at any time and we'll get those at the end. So let's get started. First, I wanted to do a brief introduction of TechSmith. We are a privately held company right here in Okemos, Michigan. You can see us there on the map. We have over 7 million registered users, and 99% of Fortune 500 companies actually rely on one or more of our products. We sell in over 50 countries, and you may or may not recognize some of the other products, services, and apps that TechSmith provides in addition to SnagIT. So that's a brief introduction to TechSmith. Let's get started with SnagIT in education. What I wanted to do was start with some examples from our current SnagIT customers in education and see how they're using it today. The first one is, instead of doing the old please see me post-it or the notes in the margin, you now have the opportunity with SnagIT to actually provide a personalized video and give feedback to a student directly so they can hear the tone of your voice and the excitement and the additional coaching that you might be providing. They can also share that with their parents, which is a great way for you to connect with the entire community. So that's one of the ways in which people are using SnagIT and the new video on SnagIT 11. Another thing that we hear a lot of our education customers talk about is that school is much more than just during the day in their classroom. School is really 24/7. When you use SnagIT to create videos and to create materials, you can extend your reach outside of the classroom. So you have the opportunity to share with your students whether or not they're in your classroom. You can also connect with them on the weekends when you don't have office hours. So we'll look at a couple of examples of how people are using SnagIT in education to have the 24/7 classroom. Another concept we hear a lot about is that people wish they could just clone themselves, right? You literally wish you could go home with your students at night and help them with their homework. When you create visuals and videos using SnagIT, you can actually have the opportunity to do that. So it's like taking you along with them when they go home to do their homework at night. They can review material, they can prepare for a test the next day, and it's like sending a piece of you home with each one of your students. Another thing that's very common in education, and actually all of our markets use SnagIT for, is to actually create visual instructions. It certainly provides a lot better insight and clarity when you can show pictures and steps and make it very clear with what people need to do rather than type out written instructions. It's also great time savings because once you create something like this once, you can reuse it for your next class, for your next set of students. It ends up saving teachers a lot of time, and I know that time is not something there's an excess of for a lot of you in education. I have a few more examples I'd like to talk about on this slide. First one is actually a portfolio. We've seen a great amount of people using SnagIT, not just the teachers, but also the students. Students through the years like to have, a progression of all the things that they've achieved and accomplished, and it's great to do it electronically. And SnagIT provides an easy way for students to create a little e-portfolio and to have their progress over the years, and it's great to have that portfolio ready as they move forward into future education opportunities. And it's a heck of a lot better than when I was in school and I carried home my paper box full of pictures that I had colored in. So we've seen a lot of students doing amazing things with SnagIT. Another thing that students are doing with SnagIT is they're actually teaching other kids. There's been a great movement in education. You may have heard such terms as flipped classroom. We also have some great customers at Math Train TV, and all over kids are learning the valuable lesson of teaching each other. And they love to hear their voice, they love to hear the playback, and they can make quick videos to share. And then you've got 12 or 15 or 20 teachers in the classroom, not just yourself. So we've got some examples of kids teaching kids. Another thing I wanted to mention is amplifying your assets. So I understand that you definitely have things in kind of all different places and spaces. And one of SnagIT's great strengths is that it can help you incorporate or amplify any of those assets. If you have PowerPoints, if you have Word documents, if you have old transparencies that you've scanned and now have them as PDFs, SnagIT can help you capture those, annotate them, edit them, and then share them with your students. So this way you can take advantage of things that you already have, and you don't need to create everything from scratch. SnagIT's flexibility also helps you share them in several different ways, which we'll look at when we do the demo. So those are just some of the examples we have for SnagIT in education. And now I want to move over to some of the highlights of this release of SnagIT. The headliner feature for this release, and we are so excited to bring this to you, is instantly shareable video. What this allows you to do is in just a few clicks, you can create a video, so it's great because people can hear you speaking to them. And when you're finished with that video, you can share it to one of several default locations. So in just a matter of clicks, you can share interesting feedback, you can provide assignments, and you can see the flexibility that SnagIT provides when we look at the demo in just one moment. In addition to the SnagIT release, we also answered a lot of the top ideas and feedback. We have getsatisfaction.com or feedback.techsmith.com. You can get to our site. I think it was playing on the carousel before we began. And we really do take our customers' feedback very seriously, and it informs all of our future releases. In this release, we're able to answer 50 of the top 200 requests that we received on Get Satisfaction. Again, I'll show you a few of those in the demo in just a moment. Another thing we did was we refreshed a lot of our graphic assets and a lot of the things that we shipped with SnagIT. We're really excited to also offer more free downloads online. These are a great way for you to add clarity or to add a special touch to your images and videos that you're working on. Here are just a few examples of some of the stamps, callouts, and graphics that we included in this release. It's been a great refresh, and we look forward to seeing your feedback on these new assets. We will continue to create assets and make them available on TechSmith Online going forward. I just wanted to mention a few resources now. I'm not sure if we'll have time to get back to them, but I wanted to let you know that TechSmith provides a whole host of things to help you as you're starting to try our products and move forward in using SnagIT and other TechSmith technologies in education. We have a section of SnagIT customer stories online. We also have lots of examples of how people are using it. We have the TechSmith Education blog, and we have online free tutorials and support for all of our customers during trial and after purchase. And I already mentioned the Get Satisfaction place where you can leave feedback and see what other people are asking about when it comes to SnagIT. All right. Now let's get to the demo.
Just before we get to the demo, Tiffany, I want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please post those to the Q&A, and then at the end, we'll be able to address all those. I'll pass those along to Tiffany so she can answer those. Thanks.
Thanks, Walter. All right, so let's take a look here at SnagIT Release 11. I'm going to kind of give you a little tour of what you might see here, and then we'll see it in action. Right here we have image, video, and text capture. One of the great things about SnagIT is its versatility, where you can actually capture an image, create a video, or capture some difficult to get text off of websites. We also have something called time-saving profiles. I think what the profiles can help you do is if there's a workflow that you do repeatedly, you can create a profile here, and in a single click and a click of the red button, you can save time and you can recreate this workflow over and over again. We also have some more examples of profiles that you can download online. So let's get started with taking an image capture. For this example, I'll bring up a website. It happens to be a topic about voting history, and I'll go ahead and have SnagIT open. One of the things that SnagIT does when you click image is it looks around on the screen and understands what there is to capture. We call this all-in-one capture, and it allows you to do different things. You could grab a region, like I'm doing here. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Demo example. I apologize for that crash. Yep. All right, let's try that again. We definitely have some technical excitement going on here with WebEx and multiple computers. Let's give that another try. There we go. And the region or area that I just captured appears in what we call the SnagIT editor. The SnagIT editor has lots of tools that you can use to make changes to this image itself or to add things to it. But give me 1 second. I want to show you a couple more captures, and then we'll take a tour through the editor. With that same image selected and hitting the big red button to start capture, another option I have is something called auto scroll. You might notice here there's a yellow arrow. What this lets you know is that SnagIT can see the things that you might have to scroll down to capture. So with a single click, we can go ahead and take a picture of this entire web page for you. This comes in really handy, so you don't have to take multiple captures and then try to stitch them together on your own. So as you'll see here, we took the entire web page. That's another example of the all-in-one capture. We'll bring back up SnagIT, and now let's switch over to doing video. For this example, I'll just bring up a Word document. Again, you can use SnagIT to capture anything: websites, PDFs, Word documents, anything that you can see on your screen, SnagIT can capture. So for this example, I'll show you the brand new video capture. What I'm going to do here is, the scenario is I'm going to give feedback to a student about this report that they created. So I'll go ahead and hit video. You'll recognize the same thing where I can select an area of the screen or just the full screen. So for this, I know I want to give feedback on this section here, so I'll go ahead and select this area. The next thing that comes up is the choice you have for audio. So as you can see, I'm talking here, and I know my audio is being recorded. If it's not, and you want to include audio, you can go ahead and use this drop-down menu and test the audio before you begin. Once I'm set and ready to go, I'll hit the record button. It lets me know it's getting ready. Hi, John, this is Mrs. Wood. I wanted to tell you did a fantastic job on this research. The only thing I would change is maybe you should add an introductory sentence or paragraph. It's great to introduce the rest of your paper right at the beginning. Great job. Thanks again, and I'll see you tomorrow. And as simple as that, SnagIT has already processed your video and has made it available for you to re-listen to in the editor. So I can do a brief amount of playback just to make sure that it sounds good. Hi, John, this is... And I know that this is ready to go and send. What's great about this is I can send this thank you and make it personal. I can also provide coaching on an individual level, and then I can easily share it. In addition to SnagIT, TechSmith also provides something called screencast.com, which is a hosting service. And you get a free account when you sign up with SnagIT or with any of our TechSmith products. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to share this and show you what it might be like to give this link to somebody instead of having to share a video. If your school or district has somewhere else where they prefer to share your videos, it's no problem. You can also save them and put them wherever is appropriate for you. But if you don't have a spot to send them, we'll go ahead and do a screencast.com. What this does is it uploads it and provides me with a nice link. This link can then be pasted into an email and sent directly to the student. I'll just paste it in my browser to show you. And this is the video the student would receive, and they could play it back as often as they wanted to get your feedback and to be able to review before the test next day. This is also what some people are doing when they're flipping the classroom, and they're providing students with their lesson plans ahead of time or their assignment via video. If someone misses class, no problem. They can view this at home. We've also seen teachers using the video in SnagIT to help with substitutes. It's a great way to prep somebody who's coming in to take over your class for the day and not lose any momentum. If you have the material created, they can simply play the video during class, or you can share it with your students before class. Just a couple other ideas on how you might want to use SnagIT video. All right. So now what I'd like to do is take you on a little bit of a tour of SnagIT Editor. As we saw for the video, there's one other thing I wanted to point out that might be a quick tip or trick. We have this option here where you can capture a frame. What this does is it creates an image from any point along the video. So if you have a different video that you're using and you want to grab just a few pieces of it in order to make a handout perhaps to go with it, you can easily click this Capture Frame button and create images from any video. Now I'm going to switch and back to an image that I created earlier and kind of walk through some of the options we have available in the editor. This is the main area in which you can add things and add clarity to your images that you've already captured. So we've got some great callouts where you can add a note. It's as simple as drawing it and typing in text, whatever you need to right there for the note. It's just like any Post-it, only electronically. We have some other things that you might expect, such as arrows to point out interesting things or get students' attention to a specific spot in the image. And stamps, these are really fun. These are sort of like stickers, only electronically. We have some education-themed stamps that you can use, as well as other stamps like numbers that help people understand different steps. So you might imagine if you want to create a reusable handout for people who want to log into your school system, you could grab those images and just simply click those numbered stamps. Another thing that I'd like to show you, I'll bring up another image that I had captured earlier, is a highlighter tool. This is another great way when you have captured something from a website and you want to draw students' attention to a particular paragraph. You can go ahead and just use this highlighter tool. You might combine that with a little bit of note, and then easily send it out to your students. And when you remember screencast.com, you can also send images there as well if you want to send a link, or you can go ahead and just paste this into email, Word, PowerPoint. We have all kinds of sharing options that you see here. There are also more accessories that you can download. We like to have a lot of flexibility and customize this according to what you might need for when you want to send out any of your images or videos. All right. The next tab we have here is the Image tab. And what this allows you to do is it grabs a nice effect to the edge of your images for a little bit of professional flair. It also might indicate that you've pulled out or ripped out part of a section from a larger website. Speaking of a larger capture, let's bring this one back up. I'm going to show you another great tool that we have that's called Cutout. Cutout is great when you have taken a really long capture, but only want to have a portion of it, but you want to indicate that there might be more in the middle. Cutout is a great way. You can do it horizontally or vertically. You can trim whole sections. It pulls it out and just provides a little bit of transparency or an opening in between. This is a nice effect where you want to show a full page, but you want to cut out a piece of what was in there because it's just too long. There we go. And I'll change my canvas color so you can see it peeking through. It's another nice effect that we see people using. One other thing you can do with images is you can easily combine several images. So here I have samples of some ballots going along with our history of ballots. And you can easily combine several of them together in the same way that you could combine together several steps in a process. This is a great way to montage or put together a custom graphic for both students and for teachers. I'll go ahead then and add this to the report we were looking at earlier. Just to show you that it's a quick and easy process to share right out of SnagIT into Microsoft Word. All right, back to SnagIT Editor. Another thing I wanted to mention, and this is, I think, a great tip to have, is if you want to protect students' privacy or the privacy of anything that you're working on, we also have a blur tool. This provides an easy way to blur out a section of, in this case I'll use the author. And then you don't need to worry that anyone will see a student's name and you can protect their privacy. Another great tip that we see some of our education customers using. As I'm going down the line for hotspots, hotspots is a fun and interesting way to add pop-ups. I've seen a great example where someone has captured a state map and then you go ahead and just put a pop-up on it and you can have additional information when the students use it. So we'll grab this, we'll do a hotspot, and you might imagine creating a link to something else for more information or a tip. Another great tool that SnagIT offers as we're moving down is something called tags. This is really nice because it can offer you a way to organize and add your own keywords to different things that you've captured. I have some keywords over here as well. I tagged everything voting that I was going to use for this presentation. You can imagine tagging things for your class or for different subjects that you're working on or maybe for your own personal research. It's a fast and easy way to bring forward those things that you had captured. Another great thing that you'll see in the Tags tab is SnagIT actually remembers where you captured something from. We like to call this an electronic bookmark. What this does is when you're doing a bunch of research and capturing several different things together, you can go ahead and get back to the original source at any time. It's another nice handy tip for when you're collecting lots of different images. And the Share tab. As I mentioned, there's all of these options through Camtasia and YouTube that are shipped by default. We also have different things that you can download for more accessories. When you share to any one of these outputs, you also have several options. So if you frequently use PowerPoint, I would suggest going in here, looking at your options, and deciding if you always want PowerPoint to create a new slide, if you want to insert into the current slide. We just try to be as flexible as possible with the kinds of options we have for sharing. We know it's important for you to save your time. All right. One of the last things I wanted to show you was we often get questions about somebody who wants to set something up. So I wanted to at least highlight this time-saving profile. This gives you a 10-second delay. It's often helpful for menus or if you want to get something all set on your screen. So this would be something I'd recommend. I don't need to demo it for you here today, but I'd like to at least mention that there's a 10-second delay. Same thing. You just hit the big red button and you'll get a countdown timer, and it'll get you the 10 seconds you need in order to set up before you go ahead and get your capture. I did want to mention also that what you're seeing me demonstrate today here is SnagIT on Windows. We also released SnagIT on Mac. It also has the same instantly shareable video that you've seen here, along with some other improvements from our customer requests and the same set of stamps and callouts. When you purchase the license, you have the ability to install it once on Mac and once on Windows. So I just wanted to go ahead and mention that, even though I'm only demoing the SnagIT Windows for this presentation. It was a little difficult to figure out how to switch between the two. I wanted to highlight quickly some of those education resources, and then in a few minutes I think we'll be ready to take some Q&A.
Yep.
So let me just go through this really quick. I wanted to show you that we have real examples of how SnagIT is being used at school, something similar to what I mentioned where you're enhancing instructions for students, and also students who are helping their assignments and work go to the head of the class, so I'd recommend checking that out. Here's TechSmith in Education, so it's just techsmith.com/education, and we have an entire area dedicated to customer stories, tutorials, and examples of how people are using our products and how they're being successful with technology in the classroom. There's a section for free tutorials. Right here you can see for SnagIT 11, and we also have it for SnagIT 2.0 on Mac. And this provides both reference in video and written for you as you're on your journey to learning SnagIT. And here's Get Satisfaction, where we get hundreds of requests, questions, ideas, and praise. And you too can join this community at any point. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback directly. It's not just limited to this hour during the webinar. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Sure.
Do we have any?
Yeah, we've got a few. Brittany asks, can these videos be placed on YouTube?
Yes, great question. I will bring back SnagIT Editor. Right here, I have a video open, and here is shipped by default a YouTube output. So all you need to do is log in with your credentials, set up your account, and with a single click you can go ahead and send it to YouTube. Great question, thank you.
We've got a question from Vivian. Vivian asks, are all the features available that you're showing, are they available for the Mac version?
As I mentioned, the video is available for the Mac version. The one thing that is not available that is part of Windows, not part of Mac, are some of the profiles that you see here. Basically, with the 20-year history that we had on Windows, we had a little bit of a head start for the version that we have on Mac. So on Mac, we provide the image and the video capabilities, but we don't have these profiles or the text. We do have all of the same drawing tools that we talked about and showed. So when we looked at some of the examples we did here with the stamps and the callouts, and we also have all the same sharing outputs. So there's a lot of similarities, but that's the one thing that's missing.
Okay. And I just want to remind people, if you can use the Q&A portion rather than the chat, sometimes we don't get all the messages because you can send it to individuals in the chat, so please try to use the Q&A portion. Steve Anderson asks, can a video be sent directly into a PowerPoint slide?
That's another great question. So right now we do not have this set up as an output here in PowerPoint. So what you would need to do is insert it via PowerPoint. That's a great piece of feedback. That was a suggestion that we can consider moving forward. But nope, right now if you want to insert it as an embed, you would need to do that work outside of SnagIT, or you could put the link using screencast.com.
Dave asks, I upgraded to SnagIT 11. If I uninstall SnagIT 10, will I lose any captures that were made in version 10?
Oh, that is a great question. Yep. What we try to do is make sure that you can install both side by side while you're doing the trial. As long as when you installed it, you said keep your data. So if you can see the images and pictures like I can right now in your SnagIT 11, you can safely uninstall your SnagIT 10 and you won't lose any of your captures or any of your work.
All right. Rita asks, do the videos work in Articulate?
That's a great question. I have not personally tested that. These are MP4 videos, so as long as they can be imported, Articulate supports MP4 videos, you shouldn't have any issues at all.
It's pretty standard video format, so I believe they would support it, although I haven't tested it either. There is a question from Michael. Can you output to Microsoft OneNote?
Yes, actually, that is an example of one of the accessories that is downloadable from TechSmith.com. So if we go here and scroll down, there is an output to OneNote. Did I scroll past it? There we go. We have both 2007 and 2010. You would just click the appropriate link. It would be installed in SnagIT and appear in the share ribbon.
We have a question from Penny. Can you give just a general quick overview on the difference between Jing and SnagIT?
Sure. So Jing has a 5-minute limit for the recording of video. SnagIT does not have that 5-minute limit. Jing has also the idea that you have to create an account. We have gotten some feedback that there are some schools that don't allow accounts for their students. So with SnagIT, you just go ahead and install it, and it's a perpetual license, so you pay the one-time fee. And we do have a great education discount for SnagIT. For a full license, it's $29.95, and for an upgrade, it's $14.95. So once you install it once, it's kind of yours to keep. So that's a little bit different than Jing as well. So like I mentioned, the biggest difference on the video is the time limit and also some of the sharing options. SnagIT has more sharing options. On the image side, Jing just has a more limited set of tools that you can use. It just has an arrow and a selection, and it doesn't do the auto scroll. So it doesn't do where you can capture an entire web page. It just has a little bit more limited set of things, and it's kind of an introductory for somebody who isn't familiar with image and video capture at all. So I encourage you to go ahead and try them both and see. I think SnagIT's got a lot more flexibility and a lot more tools at your disposal.
Kenny asked the question, can you tell us if there's also a way to have the camera video in the video as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now we do not incorporate webcam into the actual recording of your video. If you wanted to do that, the only way to do it today is if you have another program that happens to be running your webcam right on your screen so you could see it. If it's on your screen, we can record it, but we don't have anything specific to record picture-in-picture in SnagIT. That is something we do offer in Camtasia Studio and Camtasia for Mac. Those are designed to do more video recording, polish, editing, that sort of thing, but it's not part of SnagIT today.
Brittany asked the question, can you take a clip of a video from a video?
Yes, actually you can. So I'm imagining that you're playing back something that you've seen on, on some other site. You go ahead and get that ready to go, and then you just go ahead and do the video recording, and you should have no problem.
We have a question. Can you show us how to use the text capture?
Sure. That's a good question. It's very similar to the other types of captures that I was showing you. Let's see if I can bring up an example. So here we go. Here's text capture. I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to say that I just would like to select this section of text. And that brings it into SnagIT, and then you can go ahead and do some small editing here, and then you can copy and paste it out into any other, text editing. We put it in there originally to help people who were trying to capture sometimes difficult to capture text, or occasionally you'll be on websites with multiple columns, and it makes it difficult to just capture the part that you want. So that's an example of how you might use text capture.
And please be patient if you've already asked a question. We got a big lineup of questions here, so trying to get to all of them. Can you, Tiffany, Tiffany, can you show us, take a quick screenshot and show us how you could send that to Flickr, if you've got Flickr configured maybe? Teresa's asking a question about Flickr.
Sure. I don't know if I have Flickr set up on this machine. Let me just take a peek.
If not, if you can just describe it, I guess.
Yep. So right here is an output to Flickr. It was the same thing. It was not installed by default, but I hit this More Accessories button and downloaded the output. Let me just look at the options. Here's some of the things that I am logged in on this machine, so here's some of the things that you can do to set up kind of how you want us to send your image to Flickr, and then you simply click this button. And it was sent to Flickr.
All right.
As easy as that.
Excellent. Heather asked the question, is MP4 the only video output format?
Yes, MP4 is the only video format. We used it because, as Walter had mentioned previously, it's one of the most popular video formats available. It also has a small file size and can be shared to lots of sites. So we wanted to keep it simple and not have anyone have to worry about choosing different video codecs or video encoding. So MP4 is it.
Okay. Craig asks the question, he would like to highlight the normal arrow in a captured video. Is there a way to do that in SnagIT?
I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's either that you want to include the cursor in your video or add an arrow after. I'm not sure.
I think it's like highlight the cursor, like a mouse effect.
I see. Oh, yeah. No, what SnagIT has is it just records the cursor. You can turn that on or off if you want, but we do not have any cursor effects. That's something that Camtasia and Camtasia Max have.
And Craig, if I misinterpreted that question, just please correct me in the Q&A. Lee asked the question, can you use open Office products rather than Office? Can you use it in the same way? Can you do a direct import?
We do not have outputs at this time for the open Office. In that case, you would want to just copy and paste or save and insert. So we don't have open Office at this time.
And with those profiles, you can have it go right to your clipboard. So you could even make that a lot faster. So it goes right to your clipboard and paste in the open Office. It's one extra click, essentially.
Yep. And as I mentioned that, I did want to mention right here is something called Preview and Editor. So if you did want to have a quick workflow and get it just to your clipboard and you know you don't want to do any editing, you can actually turn this off, and then you don't need to have it go into the editor at all. It can go directly to your clipboard, and you can paste it right into any output or any location.
We have a question from Heather. She misses and loves the sun for the on-the-fly captioning Jing. Does SnagIT have something that's similar to that?
Sure. So we have a couple of things that we have. One thing we have is called One Click. It was actually the inspiration for the sun, a little history lesson that came from SnagIT. If you turn on One Click, what it does is it just floats to the top of your screen, and you just have that orange bar. So that's kind of always available, and then you just pick one of the profiles from there. Another thing we tried to do to add some simplicity and quickness is if you're on Windows 7, as you notice here, I have these pinned to my taskbar. You can also right-click and start, kind of a shortcut right here on on capturing and on editing. And the last thing I would suggest trying instead of this on is that you can also set up a hotkey. So you never need to see this UI at all. You can just hit print screen, and it's the equivalent of hitting the red button that you saw in my demo today. So those are some of the options that SnagIT has.
David is asking if you could show a quick demo of delayed capture.
Sure. I will do the 10-second delay. I will hit the capture button. As you can see, the countdown is over in the bottom right. You can also adjust that delay. I will go to... Oh, and of course it clicked right when I did it. I was a little bit slow. I guess I need a 15-second delay. But that's basically it. You just go ahead and hit the button. And you can change the delay or any of these settings to make it 5 seconds, 20 seconds, but that's it. It just has that countdown, and it captures whatever you have selected at that time. That's particularly helpful when you're doing menus. Yeah, I was going to grab a menu, but I just went in the wrong spot, so I apologize about that. So Hermine asked the question, does recording a video in SnagIT 11 also capture the system audio? No, it does not. Right now we have the audio for a mic that's been inserted, and it captures your audio. But I appreciate the question, and we have seen that as a request from some of our earliest adopters of Release 11.
And for those of you that aren't familiar with system audio, that's what's playing through your speakers as well. So there's other ways of capturing that, and we have some instructions on our website, but not natively part of the software right now. Question from Michelle: what version of Windows do you need? Can you just kind of quickly give us an overview of the system requirements, and does it work well with XP, for instance?
Yes, you can use Windows XP, Windows Vista, or Windows 7. We have some specific system requirements and suggestions for video. You do need to have .NET for the video. That's one of the only other additional requirements for video. And on our website at techsmith.com, if you look at the system requirements, it can tell you about the specifics for your computer, but we don't have anything, you know, super high-end that's required. We definitely have a lot of people that use XP still in-house.
Okay. Let's see here. We've had a couple of questions about video editing. Is there any video editing in Snag?
Nope, we did not include the video editing. We wanted to keep it really simple and really informal and really quick and let you create that video and get it out to people as soon as possible. If you wanted to do any editing, then I would recommend a trial of Camtasia Studio. We have an output for that all set right in here. So if you did, you know, down the road add Camtasia Studio, you can easily send any of your video clips from SnagIT to Camtasia Studio. But these do not have any, SnagIT does not have any editing for video at this time.
We've had a number of questions asking if we're going to make a copy of this available afterwards. I'll let Kate answer that one, or Sarah. Are we going to provide a link, or?
We will send an email out to everyone that registered for this webinar, and that email will contain a link on where to find the recording.
Lost sound, it sounds like.
The sound is still being broadcast. If for any reason, we've had a couple of people say that they've lost sound, if you have some latency in your internet connection, sometimes that can happen. You can't hear this if you lost sound. So, all right, so you can just respond to them. You can click, if you happen to lose sound, you can click on audio and then audio broadcast and try to refresh that, that part. I know one person at least lost it temporarily and it came right back. There was a question, you already, from Mike, you already output to FTP. Do you also have a way to output to secure FTP or SFTP?
That's a good question. I do not output to FTP a lot. I will go ahead and show you the specific properties that we have for. There was a mention, let's see, are you thinking about motion path annotations so they can appear to fly around? Ooh, that's that is a great suggestion. Actually, right now, we really are trying to focus on keeping the SnagIT video pretty simple. I know that Camtasia and Camtasia Mac do a great job of the motion path, so right now we were not considering adding that into SnagIT video. So this is a good question from Frank. What does flatten mean? What does it mean? Ooh, that's a great question. All right, let me bring up an example. So what flattening does, here we go. So what you can see here is I've got a picture, I did an edge effect, and here's the callout I added, and here's the stamp. You can see how I can move them around, and so later I could make an adjustment, I can edit this. It provides a lot of flexibility, and actually SnagIT ships with a .snag file, and if you save it as that, you can go ahead and continue to make these edits moving forward. If I right-click and do flatten all, what happens is all of these different pieces are pulled together and flattened, so you can no longer move them. They act as just a single image going forward. So that's kind of what flattening does. It kind of pushes it all together. So the equivalent happens if you save as like a PNG file, it also flattens. So it's a nice kind of trick and tip to have that you can use a snag file if there's something you want to edit moving forward, and then just save a copy as a PNG or as a JPEG to share. We have a question from Roger. When pasting to Word or another program, will the quality of the capture be the same? Yes, the quality of what SnagIT has will be the same. The only thing that you can sometimes see is resizing that happens when you paste into another product. We also know that different products have different settings, like Microsoft Word reacts differently if you insert an image versus a copy and a paste. So if you're not, you might want to try one of the alternate ways to insert a capture, and then make sure that your image will appear as 100% in Word to have it be crystal clear when you paste it. But we don't do anything when we paste into any other program.
So we've had a couple of people respond about flattening, indicating they think it was like grouping. Not necessarily, because with grouping you can ungroup. So flattening is really just treating it like a traditional image at that point, like a JPEG, where you can't then go back and make modifications. So that traditional snag file, if you save things as a snag file without flattening, then that means you can edit the individual pieces of it. But once you've done a flatten, then any call-outs or extra things that you've added, you cannot, there's no ungrouping or unflatten unless you do that, unless you use the undo history.
Correct. And while you were talking, Walter, I just grouped these two things together. So they're together and then they can be moved around as one. That's one of the most common reasons. Or if you want to have a set of things kind of always align or move together, that's grouping. That is definitely a little bit different than flatten, because I could still flatten this and then we're back to the same thing where it's just squished down into a single layer and a single image now.
There was a question from Vicki. Can you add a color to a capture that is not already there?
Yeah. So you can fill, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you can go ahead and fill here. We have some default colors that come along with SnagIT. If that wasn't the color that you wanted, if you go under this fill tool right here, you can either select something from the image or have an entire set of fill colors. There's even more here. Or type in a custom color yourself.
We have a question from Teresa, and Teresa, if you can just expound on your question. The question was, can you show the basics of how the lines work to capture info? So if you can maybe expound upon that, because I'm not quite sure. We've got a couple of questions about, I think we've handled all the upgrade questions. We have a question from Mike. Have you had much experience with school kids using the demo version? For them, it might be a handy way of getting them started with SnagIT.
Yeah, we have experience. We encourage all of our customers to download the trial and give it a shot. We definitely have seen students who have shared examples when they were able to just kind of get up and running. We also have some really fun stories of students who are using it at home and are using it for things beyond their homework. So one of my favorites I can share with you is we have a 12-year-old who is making some serious money on Zazzle.com designing T-shirts, and she's using it to put away for her college education. So we find that kids are pretty excited to use SnagIT at home and at school.
And then finally, we'll do one last question, and then if you can show us afterwards some of the resources, and then if there are any remaining questions that customers have after the webinar where they can go to ask those. We had a question from Kenny. On the Mac version, is there a way to move the location of the SnagIT pull-out bar? Currently it's located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, and he wants to know if it can be moved. Yes,
that is a great question. You just click right on the tab and move it up or down. You can also pull it right off the edge of the screen and it turns into a window. And in the preferences, you can actually decide to not show that at all if you prefer to work from the menu. So yep, just click on it and move it up and down or to the other side of your monitor. Great question.
And we did get some clarification from Teresa. She's indicating when she's trying to capture something, she's not sure exactly how the crossbars works. Is it capturing to the left, right, or below?
I got it.
And could you show her how you know what you're capturing?
Sure. I'll try to do it slow and make sure that you're following along as I'm speaking. So here we go with the image capture. We've got the all-in-one. And I will do, for this example, a region selector. You can see right there, to the left of the crosshairs is a little magnifying glass. And that's actually trying to help you so you can get right to the edge. So there's the E. I can get right to the edge of the E and have real precision. I'll drag slowly, and you see how the background grays out? That's to show you what you're not capturing. The part that's kind of the clear part, or that you see here inside the square. So it's the left. When you're dragging down this way, you're using that crosshair, and it's the upper left that's being captured. And again, you can see that magnifier, so I can get real precision. And then that's what I captured. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. I think that based on your settings of your monitor, if you had your alpha turned down, it would be harder to tell. Like you can start that capture, you can go lower left, you can go up.
You can also go this way.
Whichever direction you want.
And the magnifier adjusts to what you're doing.
Yep.
So it's up to you. But you always want to look for the unshaded area.
And we have another question. Are there any graphing calculator button stamps available? Or
Oh my goodness, that's a good one.
That is a good one. If there aren't any, is there a way that you could make some?
Ooh, that's a great suggestion. I'm not aware of any graphing calculator stamps. I can't think of anything that we have along that. That's a great suggestion. You can go ahead and save images. Ooh, I got the great job. Yay, woo! You can go ahead and save images as custom stamps. And if you do a search on the tutorials, which I'll bring up, it walks you through the step-by-step to make anything that you've captured into a stamp yourself.
Good. We're going to do one last question, and we're going to go on to some of the resources and where you can ask any additional questions that maybe you think of after this presentation. We have a question for Frank. What is the setting to capture a portion of a capture? I'm not sure exactly.
Capture a portion of a capture.
Maybe, yeah. Well, go ahead and elaborate on that, Frank.
Sorry.
I understand what you mean. There's ways that you can do trimming. There's ways that you can do cropping within a capture. So.
Yeah, and over here in this section is where you can do a lot of that work. So we have the crop, we have the cutout, which I showed, and we can also do trimming.
Trimming is incredibly helpful. You want to show how that works?
So let's say, go back to this one. I put a couple of things together, and, you know, I'm one of those people that isn't too worried about precision when I start because I know I'm going to go into the editor later. What you can do is just click on the trim button, and it removes any extra white or transparent space from your entire working canvas area. So that's kind of a quick way to get rid of any unwanted background.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Tiffany. Would you like to show us now some resources that people can use after this webinar to ask additional questions, places where they can submit feature requests, and maybe where they can get some tech support if they need it?
Definitely. So I will go.
How did this turn out?
1 second.
All right, I'm muted. There we go.
Okay. So here we go. This is a view into our Get Satisfaction. It's feedback.techsmith.com. This is actually feedback and questions for all of our products. So you can go ahead and just type in here a question, and it will, you can go ahead and search. It will see if we have anything that's similar to this, because there may be a chance that other people have had the same question. I'm pretty sure, having looked at all of them, no one's exactly asked for this particular thing, and you can go ahead and post your question. The team reads this, tech support reads this, we all try to monitor what goes on in here, and we actually use this to work on the next version of SnagIT. If you know you need tech support and it's a little bit past just kind of your general feedback, if you go back to, we'll come back up to techsmith.com so we can kind of get restarted so everyone knows where we're at. If you go to the support area, there's actually the tutorials we talked about that are free, and then there's also a tech support area. And this, we have a series of tech support specialists that respond to these questions, so you can go ahead and create an account and ask a question, and you will get feedback directly from our tech support, and they will work with you on any particular issues that you're seeing. Those are kind of two ways to contact us. And then I also wanted to just mention we do have a TechSmith and Education special section, and in here you kind of have an ongoing blog where we have posts, we have examples, and we also have different ways people are using our products and just technology in general to be successful in the classroom. So these might give you some other examples or ideas that you might try, and they're kind of organized here, and then you can go and read the actual story. So just a few things to point out when you reach techsmith.com, and we really look forward to hearing from you.
And we had a clarification from Frank. If he has a large capture, if you can show one of the large captures in your editor, and maybe you just wanted a small portion of that, maybe just a little paragraph from it or a little blurb, how would you just get that part out of that capture?
Sure. So here's the selection tool would be, you know, if you kind of want to go ahead and grab the part that you want, you can either just pull it out, copy and paste it right there, or if you're trying to get rid of everything else, you can crop. Oops. I clicked off the selection, so select and crop.
There you go. Just that little part. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today. We are going to be doing another one, if anybody is interested. It's non-EDU related on the 22nd of this month. And we just want to thank you all for tuning in today. We're going to send you out a link later on with a link to the video that we've captured of this webinar. But thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.